Yes, I'm coming back. On Saturday, I was doing a 24-hour stream that unfortunately only made it to about 16 hours due to the fact that I no longer have the stamina that I did when I was 20 fucking 1. But the point is that I played Dead by Daylight for a little over 15 straight hours. And that wasn't the plan. The original plan was to play a couple of hours, play some killer games, play a few survivor games, check out the new Rift, go, that's pretty cool, and then fuck off and play a different game. The plan was to do a whole bunch of different stuff during stream, and we just ended up just playing Dead by Daylight for hours, for just a lot of hours. And I kind of got reminded why I fell in love with the game to begin with, and I also got reminded why I quit the game very, very quickly. There were quite a few, there were quite a few instances where I just kind of understood my dynamic relationship with the game, and it was also during that stream that I made the tweet about coming back to the game, as well as made the community post that some of you have already seen here on YouTube. It took a minute. It took a little bit. I did a lot of reflection during that stream. I did a lot of discussions during that stream. Um, and so today we're going to kind of be pulling a double duty here. We're going to catch up on some of the stuff that I was missing when I was gone so that those opinions are known. And then we're going to talk about the future of the channel for this year. Uh, Anybody who knows me knows that I'm very indecisive, and we'll definitely talk about that more later on. I've got some bullet points in front of me as we speak, and I will go over each of those. But to be helpful, I have separated this video into two sections. The first one playing catch up, and the second one being the future of this channel. If you're interested in one but not the other, there are time codes down in the description for your convenience. Before we get into the video, I do want to give a quick thank you to the channel members on screen now. We'll talk more about becoming a channel member at the end of the video. With all that being said, let's start off with all of the stuff that I missed. Chucky, the Chuckster, the Chuckmeister. Now, I did play Chucky during the PTB, and I did make a video about it, and the unfortunate part about the PTB was that I wasn't able to play Chucky very much because during the PTB, like, everybody was trying to play Chucky, so nobody was playing Survivor, so it was hard to get a game and hard to kind of get a grasp of how Chucky worked. Now, the interesting thing is that I did come back to play Chucky on his release. I played 3 games with him, got his adept, and immediately logged the fuck off because over the past 3.5 months of being gone from the game, I have had zero interest in picking up the game. Even when that lights out mode got announced, even when I read one of the developer updates that had the Billy changes, I don't remember which one that was, I just didn't have any interest in the game. And so I didn't get to try Chucky again. Now, I ended up trying Chucky. I played around, I think, 7-ish games with him, maybe 8, and I'm not that impressed. Now, I know that there's a possibility that I'm washed because I did used to be good at this game at some point. Shut up, fuck you, I was. So there's a very good chance that I just am not playing the character correctly, right? But I tried utilizing the scamper mechanic. I tried to do all the stuff that people said he's capable of, and just nothing seemed to click. Like, I felt like I was still. I felt like the scamper wasn't as fast as it's purported to be, and that's probably wrong. Go ahead and tell you that it's probably wrong. I don't see an A tier killer. I see a B tier killer, high B tier, like high B bordering on A, but I don't see an A tier killer, and that's probably just because I need to take more time to play him and get used to him and understand him a little bit more. There's probably some stuff that I'm missing, and I'm not going to front you on that. However, as Chucky stands right now, I'm not that impressed with him. In terms of like general gameplay, in terms of like design, I think he's really fucking cool. I like the way that Behavior implemented him. I was really hoping for a better stealth killer when I originally thought about Chucky ever coming to the game. Instead, he's a chase killer, and that's just not as fun, but I get it. I understand why it was done that way. I just think that the power of dashing really forward Sorry about that. I think the power of dashing forward with a knife has kind of been done in this game a little bit too much, and so I'm really hoping that Chucky is the last time they ever do that. The power lacks a little bit of creativity, but the character itself is really fun. It's got one of the best Moris in the game. There's just a lot of cool stuff to the character, but I'm not that impressed with it gameplay-wise. Alan Wake, sorry, came to Dead by Daylight, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up his perks right now. Because I did test all of them out. I did get his Adept. I haven't, I need to reread his perks because they're not very memorable. In terms of the character design himself, I don't know anything about the Alan Wake video game. I can't tell you how accurate it is. I can't tell you how much Alan Wake fans like it. I do know that his voice lines get kind of annoying at times, but, it is what it is. So, his perks. Boom Elimination. It's about time we got another boon perk. It's just a shame that it sucks. The auras of all chests and generators are revealed to you whenever you stand in the aura's radius. And when it says all, it means all. And that's cool, but it's not worth a perk slot. I don't even know if you would run this in a boon build, right? Like if you were just doing 4 boon perks, I don't know that you would run this perk. It's got to be one of the worst info perks in the game. It takes up a boon. You need to have it. You need to be in the very short 24-meter radius. I think that it's about time that behavior starts looking at boons and seeing what they can do about the range, right? I think that if this boon, instead of having a range, just affected survivors and let them see the auras of generators within a certain meter of the survivor, it would be good, right? Like if someone lit this boon and then survivors were able to see the auras of generators within, let's say, 20 meters of them, I think this would actually be a halfway decent perk. Now, it does have a secondary effect where it increases your blessing and cleansing by 6, 8, or 10% while you have it lit. But who the fuck cares? I'm sorry, it's just a useless effect. The secondary effect is useless. You're never going to use it. There's never going to be a time when you're going to use it. If this boon instead, so I said, if every survivor could see like generators within 20 meters of them. If this boon instead, right? Or if this boon instead showed you the aura of every object. So like you walk into the boon and then you can see every totem, every chest, every generator, every hook. Maybe, survivors don't need to see hooks, but you get my point, right? It doesn't show you enough, and the range is too short, and it's too much effort. It's a waste of a perk slot. I'm not a fan. Champion of Light, because what we needed in this game was more excuses for people to use fucking flashlights. Look, listen to me, bro. I am still of the opinion that if flashlights did not melt my goddamn retinas, I would be much more accepting of them. Just give us an accessibility feature that darkens the screen and has blinded in Comic Sans written across it than me having to fucking deal with the light burning my eyes, okay? But this is an odd perk. So while you're shining a flashlight, you get 50% haste because behavior cannot seem to stop putting haste effects in this fucking game. Anyway, you get 50% haste, and then when you blind the killer, they suffer from a 20% hinder for 6 seconds. That's kind of cool. Oddly enough, I don't see much purpose. So the 20% hinder for 6 seconds is neat, but it doesn't do that much. So let's say you flashlight save, the killer gets stunned for 3 seconds, right? The survivor gets dropped. The survivor has time to run away. That only leaves 3 seconds for the hinder to kick in. If you blind the killer while they're breaking a pallet, then by the time the pallet break animation is over, which is 1.5 seconds, or is it 2? It's somewhere in between those two. It's either 1.5 or 2 seconds. By the time that's over, there's only 4 seconds of the hinder, right? I, you know, the point, what I'm getting, right? Because it grants 50% haste while you're shining the flashlight, and then the point that I'm getting is that it looks like it's trying to let you flip around mid chase, blind the killer, and then you get a haste effect, and then they get hindered. But you're never going to blind a killer during chase because killers, I know that people like to be like, oh, stupid people play this game. Killers are not stupid, right? Just like survivors are not stupid. If they see you starting to shine a light while they're chasing you, they're just going to look down or up. And then they're going to keep going. So I don't really think this perk does as much as it looks like it does. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the impression I got from it. The cool thing is that you can apply the hinder off of things like flashbangs and shit. That's pretty neat. But that's not very useful. Deadline. Whenever you are injured, increase the odds of triggering skill checks by 6, 8, 10% while repairing or healing. Cause skill checks to appear in random places and reduces the penalty for missed skill checks by 50%. I don't know why it's like, random places. I think it's fine if it didn't do that. I think it's actually kind of cool. Because you can combine it with skill checking perks. I think actually I might try running this in my Djinn rushing build. If you guys don't know, my Djinn rushing build is Stakeout, Hyper Focus, Deja Vu, and then it's a Yoon Djinn perk that you get tokens whenever someone is hooked, and then whenever you hit a great skill check, it uses up those tokens and gives you extra percentages depending on how many tokens you have. I forget the name of it, but that's my build, and I could probably either switch out the Yoon Djinn perk or the Deja Vu for this, and it would probably be a pretty decent Djinn Rush build. I don't know. I'd have to try it. I just thought about that. This is probably the best perk of his lineup, but overall, I think that his perks are kind of underwhelming. I don't know if they were changed from the PTB to where they are now, but honestly, I just think his perks are incredibly underwhelming. I don't think they're that good. This is pretty much a case of novelty over substance when it comes to character releases, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Billy got reworked, and people aren't going to like what I'm about to say, but I think that the character still feels really bad. So before you fucking type your comment, the problem with Billy that I outlined in my How to Fix Hillbilly video way back in the day was his skill floor was too high for too little reward. Basically, Billy took way too much to learn to how to get value out of for basically nothing. You would put hours and hours and hours into Billy, and then you would come back to use him, and you're like, yes, I've mastered the character, and you would get basically nothing out of it. The new Hillbilly fixes the second part of that problem. He's got a high skill floor still, but he is rewarded. You're rewarded for learning how to use him, right? So my problem with Billy has always been the first part of the problem, that his skill floor was too high. I don't like characters who are hard to learn to use, easy to master, right? Now he is hard to learn, hard to master. You know what I mean? So the problem, in my opinion, isn't fixed for the average player. It's fixed for people who enjoy Billy, right? If you enjoy Billy, then this rework was fantastic and phenomenal. And I do think that the overhaul of his add-ons and the new way that his chainsaw works with the overclock mode or overloaded or whatever it's called, overheat, I think, the new way that it now works, I think is incredibly rewarding and skyrocketed Billy up the tiers. I think he's probably at least a B tier killer now. However, the turning rate is still fucking atrocious. I still go flying into a wall if my mouse even budges just a quarter of an inch when the chainsaw gets let loose. And that timer is extended now, right? Like it used to be, what, 0.75 seconds, I think? Now it's a full second. So you could be charging for a full second and barely move your mouse and go flying off in a direction you didn't want to go in. Which is atrocious. I still think he should have a charge speed similar to Reinhardt from Overwatch. Sorry, a turn rate similar to Reinhardt from Overwatch. I think that he's still very difficult to control. He's still very difficult to learn. He still feels awkward in those beginning stages, but you are rewarded for getting over that hurdle now, which is better than he used to be. So he's a good killer, but he is not a good killer for me or I think the average player. Sadako got a second rework. I don't know much about this. I played against 3 Sadakos. I didn't play Sadako myself. Every single one of them seemed to be fucking brain dead. They would do random shit like knock people on the ground, leave them slugged, go off into Narnia, play with their clit, watch reruns of Grey's Anatomy, fucking text back their crush that doesn't actually want to go out with them and has a wife. They were fucking... They were just dicking around. They would, like I said, they would knock people down. They wouldn't pick them up. Every single Sadako I faced 3 of them. Every single one artificially extended the match past the point it shouldn't have been extended. I don't know what has changed. I know that the TVs work a little bit differently now. I know that the Condemn works a little bit differently now. But the way these Sadakos were playing was so weird, and I don't know if it's the rework that caused it or I just happened to run into the same dude 3 times over the course of like 6 hours, or there's something that's with the rework that is causing people to play in this really odd sluggy play style. And I don't know. I don't get it. In my opinion, if it's the rework causing this, it might be time for a third one. I don't know what it is about this fucking character that behavior just cannot seem to get right. But God, I hope that this doesn't happen when we get the Twins rework in the next like 7 years. Gen changes. So while I was gone, in an attempt to prevent hour-long games, behavior has changed it to where generators can only be damaged 8 times per match. And now they have also removed gen tapping. So when I first read this, I thought it was pretty great because very rarely are you going to damage the same generator 8 times in a single match. Generally speaking, if you're at that point, you've either already lost or already won. Now, what this takes away, and again, this is a double-edged sword, I'm going to explain. What this takes away is end games where you as the killer are forced to patrol a 3-gen, right? You didn't set it up from the beginning. You're forced to patrol a 3-gen because all 4 survivors are still alive. You can't commit to any of the survivors because if you do, then one of the gens is going to get rushed by the other 3 and then you're going to lose. So you have to like play this really weird chase, try to down, chase, try to down, chase, try to down while kicking generators game. This takes that away. Good on one hand, because that style of in-game was very, very boring, and I've always hated it. Bad, because now if you get to a situation where there's 1 generator left and 4 survivors alive, you lose every time. And it has come to my attention, and I will remember this for the next time, that if this situation crops up again, you as the killer, your only choice is to pick one person and commit to chasing them down. If you try to defend the last 3 gens, you are going to get fucked because you can only damage gens 8 times in a match. Good on one hand, it gets rid of one of the most boring things. Bad on another hand, it takes away your choice as a killer. Because if you choose to try to defend the last 3 gens, you are only artificially extending the length. And then once one of those gens gets blocked from you damaging it again, you might as well go fuck yourself. You might as well just be like, oh, they're finishing the gens now. Can't do anything about it. Go off somewhere. However, one thing that I've always wanted to happen is them to get rid of gen tapping, and they have, and that's fucking cool. I'm very, very happy about that. They got rid of gen tapping. I don't have to worry about it anymore. It used to be so fucking annoying when I would put in work. I would down a couple of survivors. I'd hook them. I would damage a generator, and then one of them would run by and go boop, and then fucking keep going, and it just removed my pressure. Now you actually have to commit to the gen and repair 5% of it before it'll stop regressing, which is great. And I truly and honestly believe that that was the way to go. I don't really know how I feel about the gen changes too much, but I do know that they kind of compound a problem that I have. Concurrent issues that were here before I left. One of the reasons that I left was because the game had started to get too samey. It basically started to feel like if you wanted any chance of winning the game, you needed to run like 2 to 3 slowdown perks, because gens just go too fast. 90 seconds is not as long as you think it is. Chases, on average, are not supposed to last any longer than 30 seconds. However, that is not always viable. Mostly because, let's say I'm chasing a survivor, right? And I've been chasing them for 20 seconds and I still haven't caught them. I've damaged them once, but they've managed to drop a couple of pallets and get quite a bit away from me, right? My options from that point are to abandon the survivor and go look for other survivors, which will continue to waste time, right? It's not like I'm going to abandon that survivor and immediately find another one on a gen somewhere. Continue chasing that survivor and waste even more time, or go stand in a corner and give up because I suck at the game, right? So the problem is that survivors only have one goal while killers have 3, right? The killer has to defend the gens, chase the survivors, down the survivors, and hook the survivors, right? The survivors have to find generator, hold M1 on generator. that is the only thing the survivors are responsible for. And so it leads to this gameplay loop where the killer is stressed the fuck out because they're having to keep track of a billion different things going on at the same time. And the survivors are bored out of their fucking minds because they only have one thing to do, which leads to a lot of survivors trying to do shit like go for crazy flashlight saves or bait the killer into super long chases in order to entertain themselves. And so what ends up happening on the survivor side of the spectrum is if you try to like bait the killer and they won't chase you, then you get frustrated because the killer won't commit to a chase to you. I did an entire video about this. And then like if you try to go for fancy flashlight saves, maybe you won't always get it because killers are smart and they have learned how to avoid getting the flashlight saves, done on them. But then if you're the kind of player who just wants to get in and achieve your goal as a survivor, then you get frustrated because your teammates, instead of doing gens, are off trying to take chase and they're trying to go for fancy saves and they're BMing and they're fucking playing with their dicks. And so for the survivor, it gets really, really boring and really, really frustrating really, really fast because you feel helpless without your team doing what they're supposed to be doing. And this all stems from the fact that generators are the only goals for survivors, and doing generators is really fucking boring. My solution is to have a system. I talked very, very briefly about this in another video that I did, and I'll probably do a more coherent video later down the line. My solution is to get rid of the time it takes to do gens completely and replace it with a different gen performance mechanic where you have to find parts to repair the generator and then install those parts on the generators. Again, I will flesh this out in a future video where I'll actually actively sit down and come up with a coherent system to talk about. When I brought this up in a community post, people were trying to tell me, oh, well, the game has worked like this since the beginning, so it sounds to me like you just want to play a different game. No, I want this game to improve. It has been like this since the beginning is a shit argument, and it always will be, because games have to update their core gameplay styles somehow to stay relevant. I don't know when, I don't know how, but this game will die if it does not update itself. The only thing, I'm telling you, people don't believe me when I say this, but I'm gonna explain to you. The only thing that has kept this game afloat for the fucking 7 goddamn years that it's been has been licenses. Without licenses, people would not have as much interest in this game. Licenses have brought people to the game. Again, I've done an entire video about this. I feel like I can say this for almost every sentence in this video, but I've done videos about this. Entire games can die without constant updates. That's why Overwatch went through its 3.0 update. That's why Apex just recently went through a huge fucking update. That's why they're constantly trying to change base mechanics and core gameplay mechanics in other games to keep everything fresh. And one of the big problems with Dead by Daylight is it hasn't been fresh for a very long time. My biggest issue, again, is the way that this all works. It feels bad to commit to chases because then you lose gens too fast. So you find yourself having to run certain perks in order to slow the generators down. And then there's the whole thing, oh, well, if you don't care about winning, then it wouldn't matter as much. But it's like, bro, it's not fun to lose over and over and over and over again. It's not fun to, that's not fun, right? If you play a fucking single player game and you die at every fucking pebble you trip over, you're gonna quit playing that game because it's not fun. It's not engaging. It's not interesting to go on a fucking 10-second chase, or what feels like a 10-second chase, and then fucking 3 generators pop. That's not an interesting and engaging game. It's boring. And one of the things that I loved about Dead by Daylight when I first started playing it was its vast diverse of builds to where you could make every game feel fresh. But if I'm forced into running slowdown perks just so I can have a fucking opportunity to actually engage with something else than walking from generator to generator and watching the cockroaches scurry off into the night as soon as they fucking get a whiff of my cologne, then it's not going to be a fun time. While I enjoyed a lot of my time playing yesterday, I did learn a lot of the problems with the game. And unfortunately, what I'm going to end up having to do is learning how to play the game without slowdown perks and learning how to maximize my time and putting even more effort into learning and becoming good at the game, which is fine. And I'm prepared to do that. But it's still a problem. It's still a problem that needs addressing. It's still a problem that I think the devs need to take a look at. And if they can pull their noses away from trying to get another license for 5 seconds, then maybe, just maybe, we can solve that problem. Now that I've talked your ear off for half an hour about the things that have happened since I've been gone, let's talk about the future of the channel. So, the first thing on people's mind is probably going to be, are everyday videos returning? Yes, kind of. I will make a video and schedule it for upload if I have a video idea. I will not force myself to come up with video ideas. Before, I always felt like I had to stick to a very rigorous upload. It's basically going to be nearly every day. Because there's no shortage of shit to talk about in Dead by Daylight. Most of my videos toward the end stopped being scripted, which you guys seem to enjoy more. The only ones that were scripted were the How to Fix series and stuff like that. We'll talk about those in just a second. So yes, all of those are, you're going to be getting nearly everyday videos. There may be a couple of days where I don't get a video out. Maybe that doesn't happen for a couple weeks, right? I've already got ideas running around in my head. Those videos will be starting next week. Maybe Friday. I might have the first one out on Friday. I haven't decided yet, but that's basically it. Series returns. How to Fix is coming back. Rate My Dead by Daylight will be making a return. I will be setting that up again here soon. Keep an eye out for a community post regarding that. The Great Discussion series will be picking itself back up, and the Dearly Designed series will be returning. So all the series that I had before will be coming back, along with your general discussion videos and, you know, news updates and stuff like that. Third point, expect breaks. I think that a lot of people had a point that I was getting burnt out and just needed a break. However, I want it to be understood that when these breaks happen, you will not get a warning, right? If you come to the channel and I don't upload for a week and you go to my Twitch and I'm playing something different, you can just kind of expect that I'm on a Dead by Daylight break, right? You don't need to be like, oh, if you quit Dead by Daylight again, no, I'm not quitting it again. I'm just going to be taking some breaks here and there to make sure that I am no longer playing Dead by Daylight for content. I'm playing it for enjoyment, and the content comes. If I find myself getting toxic, if I find myself getting pissy, if I find myself getting furious and angry and getting headaches, then I will be taking 2 to 3 days, sometimes even a week. So expect breaks to happen. They're going to happen. That's just the crux of it. What's happening with game reviews? They haven't really been performing that well, so I'm probably not going to continue making them. If I do ever continue making game reviews, then they will be, if I do ever continue making game reviews, then they will be probably on a separate channel. I'll probably change this channel's name to Kaiser to whatever, and then make a new one called Kaiser to Reviewer or Kaiser to, you know, some, whatever the case may be, right? There'll probably be a different channel where they're put up if that ever comes to fruition. I don't expect it will, because game reviews take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I pretty much didn't get any payoff for it, which was kind of demoralizing. It sucks when you put hours and hours and hours and hours into a video and it basically underperforms to an extreme. I probably won't be returning to those anytime soon. Maybe next year. We'll see what happens. Goals. We still have the goal to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I will be updating the milestones for that. When we reach 5,000, I'm going to do another DBD hot takes video. When we reach 10,000, I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. I used to have an idea in my head for what I wanted to do. But yeah, I'll I'll get back to you on that. Maybe I'll do like a community tournament. That might be kind of fun. No prize pool, just people competing to compete. Finally, intentions with the upcoming year. I've talked mostly about, returning videos and things like that. I'm really happy to be back. I'm really happy to try out the new chapter. I just want you guys to understand that this is a return to form, and there will never be another I'm quitting this game announcement. If I stop playing this game for good, I'll just stop playing it for good. But more realistically, what's going to happen is occasionally I'll just stop playing the game and then I'll come back to it when I'm ready to come back to it. I don't want this game to overtake my life. I don't ever want to make content for the sake of making content. I want to make content because it's content I enjoy. So, with all that being said, I'm happy to be back. I hope you guys are happy to have me back. I know that there's probably going to be a little bit of slow jumping off points to coming back. I know that some people left the channel when I, started doing different stuff, and maybe those people will come back, maybe they won't. Who knows? But other than that, thank you guys so much for everything. Really, thank you guys for being patient with me. Thank you guys for joining me on my journey for doing different content. And thank you guys for the overwhelming excitement of people wanting, ready for me to come back. I appreciate it. But other than that, sorry. But other than that, thank you guys again so much for tuning in. A very special thank you to my channel members, the Cat Lover, Nuclear Bomb, and Spirit Upgrades for their additional support. If you want to become a channel member today and get additional perks like seeing videos early, as well as discounts on merch and other things like that, then please click that join button down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.